Hey guys, it's Ken here. Welcome to the podcast, One Step Over the Line. In today's episode, we have another old-time smuggler. And I know we do a lot of that, but the stories never get old. And here we go. Here is Craig Perlowin.
Hey, hello, everybody. Nice to be here and looking forward to doing this podcast with Kenny.
So I have a question. I'd like to go back to kind of the beginning. You tell us you were born in Florida?
Or... I was born in Miami.
So you're a Miami local guy, not a lot. And you spent most of your formative years in North Miami?
North Miami.
Yeah.
You know where the football stadium is?
Sure.
Okay, that's on the west side of the turnpike. I was on the east side.
Right. And so where'd you go to high school?
Norland High School.
Norland, I figured that. And so you were kind of just grew up in a normal life. What did your father and mother do?
My mother was an RN.
Oh,
and
nice.
my father owned furniture stores, and from first grade to 12th grade, I was in the same neighborhood, and then I moved after that.
So your father was in retail. My father was in retail too. That's kind of a thing in our ethnicity. Retail is in our blood, and then that was so late '60s. When did you start first experimenting with marijuana? Because I like to say, as I said once before, in 1965, I actually talked to your brother about this earlier today, there was poodle skirts, Bobby Darin, Elvis Presley, bouffant hairdos, Bobby socks. And then by 1969, it was Free Love, Woodstock, Hair, the Age of Aquarius. How has that affected you coming in, and how did that get you into the marijuana world, which is, I'm sure, what you got into first?
Well, growing up in Miami, that's where the pot came into Miami, so the pot was everywhere.
Right. And
I first started dealing it and smoking it in middle school.
Really?
Yeah.
So how old were you?
The first time I smoked at 12 years old.
Yeah, I was 13.
Yeah. And so I, would get, and Bruce was dealing. Bruce is 3 years older than me.
Right.
And I started dealing, and he was dealing on a lot larger scale than me. And I would go to him, like, can I buy a pound from you, and announce it out.
Yeah.
No, you're too young.
Mm-hmm.
So he went sell me pot. I had to find it on my own.
So you actually had to, in some sense of a word, compete with your brother.
No, I was doing ounces, he was doing pounds. In fact, what happened is I went to this guy, he went to this guy to buy a pound, and this guy ripped off this guy, and this guy, the second guy, was buying the pot from Bruce.
Oh.
So I went to Bruce, I said, I got ripped off. And he goes, from who? And he went and got my pot back.
So I'll tell you a funny story. Me and my younger brother, we lived in New Orleans. I tell this story. And my mother decided to move us to Hollywood, Florida in 1973 to get away from the drugs. I know. It's like, Mom, could you have read the paper maybe? And I always say, if she'd only moved to Palo Alto, I'd be hanging out with Bill Gates and, out. Yeah. But my brother and I, my father had passed away, my mother, went to work, and we just ran a little drug thing out of our house. And he was in his bedroom and mine was in my bedroom, and we would compete against each other, where people thought, like, they go, oh, Kenny gives a better deal. Or Eric's,
God's better.
Yeah, or whatever. And it was just us meeting in the living room after they left, going, how'd we do? So, it's like Morty and Saul, hey, how's the business? So tell me more.
So, that's when I started, and when I was in middle school, Bruce was in high school. And I didn't do much selling a pot in high school. I was more into sports, and I smoked pot, but I wasn't dealing it. Mm-hmm. And then when I got out of high school, I was in Lakeland, Florida, because my parents moved up there, and I moved up there actually before high school ended. They left me down there in the house, and my father came down like a month later and saw what was going on. He goes, you're coming back to Lakeland with me.
But not just as not in the drug thing, but if you're a kid, so you're in 1970s?
Early 70s.
Early 70s.
Yeah.
And you're going from Miami, Fort Lauderdale, which was a sleepy little place back then. It wasn't what it is today. And then you go into Lakeland, and for those of you who don't know about Lakeland, it's still the same as it was 40 years. It's not a really happening place.
It was what you call a culture shock.
That's what I was going to say.
I mean, I thought, all of Florida was like Miami or Fort Lauderdale.
Right, with wolfies and delis and
and the
beach.
partying and the attitude, the hippies.
Crandon Park.
Reynolds Park.
Reynolds Park, yeah. All
And
the
I went
hippies.
up there and was like, the rednecks, So.
Right. You could have worn bell bottoms in Miami. You would have been maybe shot for wearing bell bottoms in Lakeland.
There was a few hippie types in Lakeland.
Interesting moves. So tell us more.
So I moved up to Lakeland, finished out high school, and I took a gap year where I didn't go to college. And I just hung out in Lakeland. My father had a store. Maybe I was working for him. And I wanted to go to college the following year, and I had bought a van.
We had a van too. Yeah.
And
was it all done up inside?
oh yeah,
Yeah, us
the
the
carpet,
captain's
the
chair,
paneling,
exactly.
You
Same.
had the small tires in the front, the big wide tires in the back.
Craigers. We had we had the what were the side pipes?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and every girl on the beach had a burner or leg because they go inside to smoke a joint and come out and burn their legs on the side pipes. And the little, all jet, right, with the paint job. That's so funny. Craco stereo, if you were lucky.
No, I didn't have that, but it was so.
Shag carpeting.
My mom told me, she goes, okay, if you want to go to college, we'll pay your tuition and your apartment, but you gotta come home on the weekends. It was only a 2-hour drive.
Well, where did you go to college?
University of Florida.
Oh yeah.
Well, up there was Santa Fe, and then I went to University of Florida.
The junior college was Santa Fe.
Santa Fe.
Still is today.
Yeah. Stummies.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry, I didn't. My story's the same. Don't worry.
So
I went to Miami-Dade, and same thing.
So this is like 1973, and she goes, "Okay, we'll pay for this, but you got to pay off your van, and you got to come home and work the weekends, and with that money, you buy your food."
Oh, really?
I would buy food for a week. Went to a meat market place, and $20.
Yeah.
I bought for the week, and I ate good.
Yeah. Now, so let me ask you. So your mother was kind of being a little kind of strict, but where was your mother from originally? What was her?
Philly.
Right, but you were Russian by descent.
She's Ukrainian.
Okay.
And my father's from Moscow.
Right, and when did they come to America?
It was my grandmother on my mother's side, so whenever, early 1900s.
Yeah.
And then my father's grandfather was actually a bodyguard for the Tsar's mistress.
Really? Wow.
And the Tsar found out that he was having an affair with his mistress.
He was dipping into the
and
company
that's why
pie.
he had to leave Russia.
Yeah.
And then he came to America.
And not that this is relevant, but my current wife, I call my ex-husband, his mother, who's 80, Grandma Maria, was born in a Russian prison. Because they were doing black market, the husband. So
they got busted.
They put the whole family, they put the mother and the father in prison.
Wow.
And Grandma Maria was born in a Russian prison.
Wow, okay.
So I always say, no matter what our stories are, she's the badass. She's the true badass.
Well, you must have known some women that were in prison here that gave birth.
I don't know anybody that gave birth, but I know some women that are in prison.
Yeah.
So going back to your story, so you had European roots. So they had the work ethic roots, because your mother was telling
criminal. My grandfather, my father's side, was a bootlegger.
Yeah, so it runs in the family. Yeah. So because I wanted to say, looking at it as the human psyche part, your parents said you can go to college. Did they make you work for the father's store?
Oh yeah.
That's where you were getting your income to buy the food and pay off the van.
Oh, that was in Lakeland. But growing up, to get us out of the house on the weekends, the three of us was three brothers.
Yeah.
Bruce, middle brother, me.
Yeah.
And there's 3 years difference between Bruce and myself.
Right.
And ship us off to my dad's store.
Right. But I'm saying, when your mother said that, I know this is maybe going a little sideways, but I'm trying to figure out what built you and Bruce into who you and Bruce are or were. Your mother made you get a job to pay off your van and feed yourself so you could go to college.
Well, I was working on, and
they don't do
instead
that
of writing an open check to me, you want to eat, you come home on the weekends and work for your father, and that's your food money.
Okay, I respect that. That was giving you that, what I like to call the German or European work ethic. Try doing that today.
We all three boys have always worked growing up.
Yeah.
Did you work when you?
I was selling drugs and working as I was a bellman at the Diplomat Hotel. Was probably not a bellman, a houseboy.
Houseboy at, I forgot the hotel, on Miami Beach.
Yep.
On the weekends.
Yep.
Used to hitchhike to the beach. I was like 15 miles from the beach.
Oh, I used to take my little car, me and my friend Howie Leventhal. And then I was a pizza delivery boy at Species Spicy Pizza, which was right next door to Ben Kramer's father's lighting store. Not that I knew who that was until after the fact, but Ben Kramer's, big smuggler. I guess the lighting store was paid for, but they're smuggling her into it. And his father was cousins of Meyer Lansky.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so here I am delivering pizzas, but that was irrelevant. But yeah, even I was selling little joints and ounces and quaaludes and half grams. We were small time. We started selling half grams of Coke or little bag, and then we got into grams and ounces. That
was a big no-no with us, the cocaine.
Yeah, we didn't stop.
Yeah, no, it was, Bruce lost a friend that was in it, and he was killed, and he just hated it. And in fact, that's why we left from Florida to go out to California, to get away from the violence in Florida.
It
got crazy. I mean, in the mid-'70s,
it did.
We didn't run around with guns. And
we never had a gun.
People weren't really ripping each other off, and
It's kind of what I was saying, just to talk about the history of what we started out doing. I never carried a gun in my life. I never needed a gun. Everybody I dealt with was people I know or trusted.
Right.
We never went to hurt anybody. And in the beginning, in our first, like people once said to me, well, you were looking at RICO in 25 years. You went to work for the DEA. You had to know what you were up against. And I tried to explain, but when I started as a 13 or 16-year-old kid, you would get 3 years in Club Fed. Drug smuggling was considered almost a white-collar crime. It wasn't, it wasn't like you. And then as they started crushing more and more against busting the marijuana and giving more time. One of the things I say, my assertion is, then people said, well, let's bring in cocaine. A bale of marijuana was worth about 10 grand. A bale of cocaine is worth about 200.
I used to do the thing with you could put 300 pounds in the trunk of, of a Lincoln or a Volvo. I compared 300 pounds of pot to 300 pounds of coke.
Caprice Classics. I had Grand Marquis. I always said, I'd never get a Cadillac or a Lincoln. I'd go right below the, so.
Look like
I used to say, if I was a cop in Tennessee and saw a 24-year-old kid
driving a Cadillac,
or even a grandma Lincoln Mercury Marquis, like 3 a.m. with Florida license plates, I'd pull them over.
When I went out from Florida to California in '78, I drove a car and I had Florida tags. Right. You know how many people said, "You got any pot?" I couldn't get rid of that license plate quick enough.
No, we were driving from. I was trying to get a load out of Texas. This is in the 80s when Florida dried up and the weed in Texas was better now. They were growing better weed. Me and a friend of mine were driving this pickup truck. So I had money hidden in the secret suitcase. I had half the money there. I had $40,000 and I was bringing, I forgot what we were doing. And we got pulled over in Louisiana with Florida tags for driving too close to the white line. I get out of the car and go, is that a thing? He goes, oh yeah, you were driving. But I'm in the lane. Oh yeah, but you were too close to the lane. So this is the 80s because I was auto racing. So it was in the low 80s when I was. So I said, well, we're going out to Dallas. There's the Dallas Grand Prix, and I'm one of the marketing guys. And I pull out, all my paperwork and go, hey, you want a picture of a race car for your kid? Because I had all the pictures of the teams.
Wow, okay.
And he goes, and we had a bag of weed with us because to smoke, you're not going to drive all the way out there without getting high.
Yeah.
But he let us go, and I was like, God, it could have cost me $40,000 or $50,000 in cash, But anyway, so we had a lot of the same experiences, obviously, which, so your parents made you work hard, which is the work ethic, which is what also makes you a successful smuggler, There's people that try to do the business by remote control where they sit in their house and tell everybody else to do it. And then there's people
hands-on.
Hands-on, same here. Same here.
So what I was doing to pay off my van,
Yeah.
Bruce was in South Miami
Right.
selling pot.
Right.
And I would drive down there with my girlfriend, pick up a couple pounds.
Right.
She would ounce it up in the van as I drove back. And I sold pot and paid off the van and went to Gainesville.
So let me ask you, what kind of scale did you do? The 3-finger?
No, she did the four
finger. Yeah, that's how we did it back in the day.
A lid.
A lid. Right. You just all right. That looks good. Here
Yeah,
you go.
that looks good.
Yep. That's so funny. The 3-finger and the 4-finger. And I'll tell you something about me and my brother. I've sold probably, I don't know, over 1,000 pounds of coke in my life. I never cut one line.
You never hit it.
Not once. But what my brother and I used to do, remember, we were selling grams in high school for $60 a gram. A kilo was $60,000.
Right.
So 57 to 60. So what we did was I came up with the concept of selling 8/10 grams, a little lighter. So people would come in, they go, and we tell them it's 8/10. They go, well, why don't you give me the whole gram? I go, I can make it bigger, but it's not going to get any better.
Yeah.
So crush up an aspirin, I'll be back in a minute. You know, or a baby laxative, an Inositol is what they use. But yeah, I never in my life have cut a line of coke. And I know guys that took coke, broke it down, cut it, repressed it, retaped it up, and they made a fortune. They made a lot more money than me selling weed.
You know, when we went out to California, we had this same Colombian connection.
Right.
And Gustavo. And
I
we knew
love
him
that
for
name.
years, and you know, knew my family and
Really?
and my girlfriend. Yeah, we were tight. And then we went out to California, and you know, after we brought in like 3 or 4 loads, he started talking to me about bringing coke up.
Right.
And what it is, well, we had these fishing boats, you know, 65, 85-foot boats, and we built them. Some of them we built. So you could build a certain compartment,
right?
And he just wanted to do 100 kilos. It was $8,000, $10,000 out of Colombia.
Exactly. What year was that?
This is like 80,
Right.
1980.
Yeah.
And you had to pay cash. Now
Right.
the pot was $10 a pound down payment.
Right.
And then you paid them
The rest of
after
the
you
pot.
started selling
Right.
the pot.
Yeah,
The
well-
coke was cash.
What we used to say was you were paying for some of the pot to help to pay the farmer, the police in the runway, or the police in the offload.
They paid the army.
Right. If I used to tell people, if you're paying more than that, you're probably not going to leave with the load. They're just going to rip you off. You got to make sure that the supplier has a vested interest. Like when we brought our one trip out of Jamaica, we paid. It was $12,000. It paid for part of the load, the runway, and the police.
Protection.
Right. The rest of the 600 pounds we brought out was we split it with our other guy. You know, we brought in 600. Maybe split the load, but we had to pay.
So you talk about prices in Florida. You know, 55, 60,000 a kilo.
Yeah.
California was 70,000. An ounce was 3,000.
Well, I remember those days.
Yeah. Okay. So okay, I started doing the math, and so it was so if it was 100 kilos at $10,000 a kilo was 800,000, $1 million. You know, Bruce had it. You know, here. So I go to Bruce. I go, Bruce. You know, Mike's talking to me. You know, when we bring up the pot, we could bring the coke up, and we could hit the boat with one of our speedboats and take the coke off, separate it when you're close to home port.
Right.
And no, Craig, no, we're not bringing in coke. That's And then like maybe 6 months later, the Colombian starts talking to me again about it. I go back to Bruce. Bruce just looks at me and goes, look, you mentioned this shit again to me, I'm going to drop kick your ass back to Florida.
Really?
And the point being is how much he despised the coke.
Right. Did he despise, he didn't like the smell of it? In other words, he didn't.
No, the whole
like the business.
atmosphere of
But
it.
you guys did party a little bit, right?
Oh, well, we had famous parties. I mean,
Yeah.
what we had an offload and a company. So the offload was in charge of going down there, picking up the pot, bringing it to the dock, offloading it, and dispersing it. That was the offload. And then the company was the rest of it.
Right.
So, so I kept track of the monies, because I would collect the money and then, write down where the money went and on the offload and where the money went in the company. So Bruce is going over at one time and on the offload, I had party, $6,000.
Right.
I mean, there's a long list. I mean, what's the $6,000 party? You got to entertain the troops, Bruce.
Yeah.
So it was $3,000 for the coke.
Right, and that's fun.
$3,000 for the girls.
Right. I'll say this in my book, One Step Over the Line. The one thing I left out, and I didn't leave anything out, was like to respect my family. I don't have any of my party days in there.
Right.
Like, the sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I left out the rock and roll and the sex. But what I say in the book is, if you ever watch a rock and roll band party and tear up, we taught them how to do it. They would come to us. We had the blow.
When we were out in California, it was constantly, there was a boat on the water.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 2 times we brought boats in 10 days apart.
Wow. That's crazy.
And one time, let's see, a boat came in, Bruce was in jail, and we still offloaded the boat. Another time, which was in that 10-day period, which was 2 boats came in. One boat came in, everything was fine. The second boat came in a day early. And there was Larry Holmes was fighting Ali in Vegas.
Yeah,
and Bruce and the salespeople were in Vegas.
Partying.
And the boat comes in. So long story short, we offloaded the boat while Bruce and the sales guy would bring people onto the dock, his people on the
Really?
dock. I would bring 10 of my people.
Right on the dock.
Yeah, on the dock. You can offload the boat.
That's not, a lot of times the smuggling trip keeps the product away from the sales side, because the sales guys are coming in from all over the country, and they may not be, like, you guys knew everybody like family.
Okay, we had a couple
You had to
rules.
be really close to everybody.
My crew was 15 guys. We were always constantly doing something, and in the night of the offload, I would put 10 of the 15 on the dock. And then the other guy, the sales guy, would bring 5 of his people.
Right.
Okay? And my people were like, give me a bail.
Right.
No, we didn't sell any pot, gave any pot to any of the workers,
Right.
and it all went north.
For 2 reasons. One, of course, you'd get another $100 and something a pound when it went north.
No, it was the same price, but they get busted.
But a bail, exactly.
Oh, you know what I was doing 6 months ago?
Yeah.
I was on the dock offloading up, and that's all you needed to get busted.
Yeah. I got busted in '92 in Ohio for RICO, and we were running a 12-year ongoing criminal enterprise. We had moved.
That's RICO, right?
Yeah, and we had moved tons and tons and tons of weed. We got busted by one guy who got busted with 1 pound. And then it
went right down the
it just went right up the ladder.
Yeah.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
One guy with 1 pound, which is not to go, I want to really go into how much you guys moved, but just so I can get my jabs in where I want them. And that's why it makes no sense to be blowing up boats in the ocean without following, or, I don't believe that whole, that's all political theater. But if you are following a drug boat, common police work is to follow it to the bigger mothership and bust the whole load, or follow it back and bust the whole other side. Just blowing the boat up in the middle of the ocean, you lose your leads. I mean, imagine if they would have killed the one guy that had the 1 pound. They never would have got us. That's why you're not supposed to kill your evidence.
Well, that
and blow up your evidence.
In Bruce's organization, he had actually at one time altogether 200 people, all different, and so the one guy was like, say, a money launderer. So he would take launder the money for Bruce for about a year, and then he left, and he goes to Miami, and he starts laundering money for cocaine dealers that gets busted.
Right.
You know what I was doing a year ago?
Right.
This guy, Bruce Perlowin?
Yeah, because it's conspiracy. That's the thing. When they came up with the conspiracy law, you wouldn't need a crime.
Yeah,
you just
right.
Yeah, and that's what people don't understand. I've seen people, I'm sure you have too, 5 years later, they have a whole nother life. There's a knock at the door. Hey,
As long as the statute of limitations.
As long as the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
So, just want to say, let's go into the size and scope of how big, because now you're hearing how many people, right? When we do a smuggling thing, when I used to do mine, you want like 3 people, 4 people, 6 people. I'll give you an example. The trip we flew a plane load into Tampa with 1,100 pounds, St. Pete. So we had the pilot, my buddy Kelly, another family member of his, and they were and me in the ground in the area. We had the 2 offloaders, so there was 2, and then so that's 3, 5, 6, and then the rest of the guys that were going to move the load, outside of town, sitting in a hotel room. So you maybe got 7 or 8 guys. When you got 10, 15, 20, so you were bringing in 50 and 60,000 pounds. What was the load?
30, about 25, 30,000
on each ship.
on each boat. Yeah.
And it was a shrimper or what kind of boat was it? Well, trawlers.
No, they were fishing boats.
Yeah,
Yeah, for tuna or whatever fish are out there.
Right, Louisiana, Florida, we use shrimp boats.
Right.
So you're in California now. You're using whatever they're
halibut fish boat.
Yeah.
But they were 65 to 85 foot boats,
Big boats.
and they could hold 30,000 pounds. In fact, one time we used a little bigger boat, and when we offloaded, we had two 24-foot bed trucks. So each truck would hold 15,000 pounds.
Right.
2 trucks, 30,000 pounds.
Right.
This guy was coming up with 45,000 pounds.
You need another truck.
So, no, we need another boat.
Oh.
We had a boat hit him, take off 10,000 pounds.
Right.
Now he comes in with the 30. We could take off the 30.
Right.
And then the other guy came in, maybe a week later with the other 10.
So just as another, geographically, what y'all did was went to California when Florida got hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just as an explanation to this, a trip from Colombia to Florida is 1,500 miles, and that's why Colombia is the waypoint for most drugs coming out of Colombia, and cocaine and marijuana, and Florida is the stop because that's the 2 closest ports. So if you're in a sailboat and you can do 7 knots, it might take you a week and a half, 2 weeks to get there. You have to go through Cuba or by Jamaica, whatever your route is. And if you're in a power boat like that, it would have been a shrimp boat. It's going to take you maybe again, that's doing maybe 17 to 20 knots, running 24 hours a day. You're doing 300 miles or 400 miles a day. You might do it in 3 or 4 days, maybe 5, 6 days, depending on oceans.
And the same thing could be said about the planes, flying it out.
Yeah, of course, you can fly with enough fuel. You can make one trip. You don't have to stop. We used to have bladders that went in the plane. These rubber bladders.
Yeah.
Or other tricks, wing tanks. You guys going from Colombia to Golden Gate, which is the name of one of the books that we're going to talk about, the Golden Gate Smuggling Company. This is a book written about Bruce's brother and his trusted brother, right-hand man. And here's another book, Ride the Tide, which Craig gave a lot of information about. This is another book about their adventures. So anybody that likes to read books like I do, especially smuggling books, Rick can look over and say I have a whole library of them. These are 2 great books. As you can see, I have notes. Notes right here in this book because I'm just getting started in the other one. So tell us, how many boats did you got? Oh, and I want to go tell the story about what you did prior to going to Florida when you were in Florida with Big Bob or whatever his name is.
Bob,
Little Bob and Big Bob.
Bob Senior, Bob Junior.
Yeah, but I want first to go into we kind of left Florida, we're in California, but you guys had a huge operation
In California.
Yeah, I mean hundreds of people. And again, you're in the Pacific where the ocean's way bigger.
Woo.
Yeah, I mean, you can get in a cigarette boat. I've been in a cigarette boat, want to blow out to Nassau to hit a ship, and it's a nice cruise. You're out there, the sun's shining. California, it's like
different animal.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's one step below the deadliest catch. And you know what I mean? When you see the deadliest catch, well, that's Alaska, but Pacific's not friendly.
No, and it was 4,000 miles.
Yeah, so
one way.
So almost 3 times as far, and a lot rougher seas. And for those of you that don't live anywhere near an ocean, and those of us that have grown up on it, Mother Nature can be unkind, and the ocean is super unforgiving if you make a mistake. So tell us about how many boats did you have? How big were the boats well, you bought the boats right in underneath the Golden Gate Bridge.
Right.
Where here we'd send out cigarette boats and cabin cruisers.
See, you have a freighter come up from Colombia on the East Coast.
Yeah, put out 100,000 pounds, whatever, 200,000.
Yeah, and then you have boats hit it.
Yeah, cigarettes. And
we went boat down, boat all the way up, land at the dock.
Big balls, a bigger job, way bigger logistics.
Well, the thing about it was, it was 8,000 miles round trip, and the Coast Guard we knew would only go out 200 miles.
Right.
Okay, so we stayed out 300 miles. Right. There's nobody out there.
Right.
So we'd go down, come back. Now, in the beginning, we stopped in Costa Rica so they could refuel.
Right.
They could pick up
I was
fuel.
going to ask you about fuel.
So, but then what we started doing is, what do they call the
Bladders?
Bladders. They put bladders on the boats and with enough fuel on there to make the round trip. We didn't have to stop in Costa
So
Rica.
just to give everybody an idea, the military developed these, I think they were military, but just these big rubber bags. And they're called bladders, and they have baffles in them so that, you know, you can fill them up with aviation fuel. You could have a 100-gallon bladder. You could have a 600, whatever, as big as you wanted to fit in and buy. You could have several bladders. And planes you run on aviation fuel, which is high-test gasoline. Boats are going to run on diesel fuel. And but the bladders would be puffed up, and as you use them, they go doom, 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 doom until they lay flat. And then you can roll them up. But you got to be careful, because if somebody sees you moving a bladder around, the first thing they say, this guy's a, you know, smuggler. Bladders didn't come without their
suspicions.
Suspicions. It's kind of like driving around in Colombia or Jamaica with a bunch of 50-gallons of aviation fuel. Yeah.
Well, and then on the dock, we had 55-gallon drums of fuel. So when the boat came in, he was probably low on fuel.
Yeah.
And two guys just sitting there. As soon as the boat, I think we had electric.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. But anyways, that two guys just to refuel it. And then we would unload the boat, have the two trucks gone, and everybody off the dock in 1 hour after the boat pulled into the dock. And it was refueled, and then they were to go wherever, Oregon, down south, or whatever, but get the boat out of the Bay Area.
Right. And one of the reasons is the boat's filled with marijuana residue.
It smells.
It's in the hulls, it's on the deck, because either, you know, marijuana is packed in usually burlap, maybe sometimes extra plastic, more burlap, but they pop open, they bleed, and any one seed, one speck, and you could lose your boat and go to jail. The Coast Guard was, I don't know if you know this, but there was a point where if you were driving around in Florida, they had a law, any speck of marijuana found on a boat, they could seize your boat. So if you were going out for a pleasure cruise
with a joint,
you could lose your boat. Yeah.
Wow.
You used to ask people, mind if I bring a joint on the boat?
Yeah. So we had these little flashlights.
Yeah.
And we would just walk around the dock and make sure there's no buds.
Right.
And there was a whole thing about the tide.
Right.
You know, the boat would come in.
Right, because the tide can be 8 feet over there.
Well,
6
no,
feet.
it's maybe 4.
Oh, is it?
Okay, and then as the tide goes out, it takes whatever is laying around in the water.
So you just swoop in.
Plus, we were building houseboats by the dock, and we had a crew come down, you know, work on the houseboats.
So was that a cover business?
Yeah, cover business, and we were selling them, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And it was good for blockage.
Yeah.
You couldn't see the boat.
A good time to put up a wall, yeah.
So, and then one or two guys knew what was going on that were, you know, maybe the foreman of the building of the houseboats.
Oh, right.
So when he would come back down the day after the offload, we always offloaded at night and never on a full moon, and he would check around, you know, make sure there's
he'd be
no
the residue
evidence.
guy.
Yeah.
Have a broom or a hose or whatever, you know. And then you would send the boat back out into sea where the crew, whoever's left on it, would scrub it clean as best they could.
Yeah, and one time, or maybe twice they did. I mean, we brought in 15 loads, and after Bruce got arrested, they still used a lot of his people he worked with started bringing in Thai. And they brought in 3 Thai trips, and they're bringing in the 4th one, 80,000 pounds.
Wow.
And somebody dropped a dime on them.
So there's a famous Thai story that I'll tell you 2. I never cut coke, but me and my brother, I swear to you, in high school, we would go to Pier 1 Imports.
Okay, yeah.
Right? We'd buy the Venetian blind they made, and then we grew up on a farm, so we knew how to take twine apart.
Yeah.
We would get a piece of that, take it apart, and we would take the buds and roll our own Thai sticks.
Oh, okay.
And we would sell them as Thai sticks.
Right.
Entrepreneurs, right? Something different. And our friends would go, because you could tell a real Thai stick was tied really nice. I mean, you have little Thai hands know what they're doing. Ours, they kind of look like the McDonald's of Thai sticks. But at one point, Donnie Steinberg, who you know.
Oh yeah, no.
And was Bruce's partner in many things after, you know,
Right.
even after the cannabis world. He was bringing in a trip from Thailand. You ever hear about this? The no high
I'm
Thai?
bringing it. No.
Yeah, he brought in a trip from Thailand. It was 60,000 pounds. We called it the no high Thai trip. It wouldn't get, it was the worst weed.
Shit, huh?
And you have to come, so they had me fly to New York. They were already in California, and this is my memory. And I had to go pick up 2 Atlas ham radios. They were the state of the art. They were nowhere in the country. So Sandy gave me a phone book and said, find me 2 Atlas radios. Donnie needs them. Found him in New York. I flew up to New York, by myself, with the cash. Like I had like 6,000, whatever I had to pay for it. And I had a briefcase that we had. I got the stuff out of the storage area at the airport by just conning them, pulled it out. I get there and there's, you know, I have nothing. They were in a rented Rolls Royce convertible. They had a Mercedes Benz. They had all these cars, and they took me down, bought me clothes on Rodeo Drive, drove me around in a Rolls Royces and all this.
Why would he be having Rolls Royces?
They rented them from Dollar Rent-A-Cars.
But did he own a bunch of Rolls
Yeah,
Royces?
Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, he showed up at my house one time in a Rolls Royce Cornish convertible. I'm living in a mobile home. And I go, I don't think this is, you know, my neighbor Donnie, you know.
Yeah.
He's showing up in a Rolls Royce. Yeah, I was just a kid, but so, and that was the worst. It got nobody high. He lost all his money on that trip. But just to make it clear, because now we're talking, it's 8,000 miles round trip from Colombia to San Francisco. How far is it from San Francisco to Thailand?
Across the Pacific
It's got to
Ocean.
be 6,000 miles, 5,000.
I wasn't involved with the Thai. I had left California. I did what they call a smuggler's retirement.
Yeah.
When you're doing a trip, they call it trips. They needed investors, pay the Colombians front money.
Yeah.
So you would borrow money 3 to 1. Did you do 3 to 1?
No, I never did borrow.
Okay, so you get $10,000 from a guy, and after the load comes in and everybody gets paid, you pay the guy $30,000,
Yeah.
3 to 1 on his money. So I was going. I had enough. I was getting married, and once you get somebody else in your life,
I know.
and she was pregnant, that's it. I'm done with this stuff. So
What happens?
I made arrangements with Bruce. I'll leave $50,000 in. And every trip that comes in, you pay me $150.
And Bruce was a multi-millionaire. Was moving. How many pounds of weed you did in San Francisco or out west, as we said? You said that you did 15 trips.
15 trips, and then the Thai trips after that, which he got screwed. He was supposed to be. He was in prison when the Thai trips were coming in, but he was still partners.
Right.
And they just, you know,
Yeah.
he's in jail.
You know, that's the way, exactly. That happens a lot.
15, he about 500,000 pounds, I would say.
And that's why they call him the King of Pot. So when you guys, if you guys go to, Bruce has a podcast. It's called Making the King of Pot. Right?
Making of the King of Pot.
And Craig and all the players from back then, the stories are incredible. And yeah, he was, you know, definitely the king of pot. He had his own kingdom. There were some other people that brought in big loads, but that's huge.
There's some huge loads came into this country.
Yep, people don't understand.
It was a certain period of time that pot was, you know, and then just died out.
Right. One of the reasons it died out was because the government really crushed.
Everybody was in jail.
Everybody was in jail, right? You know, I said I made more money. So when I was telling you earlier that if I wanted to sell 1,000 pounds of weed in Florida, I could get it for $240. I couldn't get more than $245, and so it's $250,000 worth of weed that I was going to make $5,000 on. Not a great markup, but at $250,000 back then would be $700,000-800,000 today. But $5,000 to a 24-year-old kid,
Wow,
you know, wow, you know, I'm going to buy a new jet ski. I'm going, you know, it's $5,000 would have been like $20,000 or $15,000, $18,000 today. So. But I couldn't sell it. So when I got my connection in Ohio, now I'm making $40 a pound. And one of the things that I said that helped me go from $5 to $40 was Reagan's war on drugs, because the supply closed up, but the demand just getting
bigger.
Yeah. The other thing that I'd like to clarify that maybe people today don't understand is we couldn't work all year long. marijuana today is grown indoors in hoop houses and light dep and all the different techniques to get it to grow 24/7. Marijuana that we were getting was grown outside in the mountains. So October's harvest. So October's harvest season, that's why Halloween, you harvest marijuana and corn, whatever wheat, whatever your harvest season is. And there was usually 2 harvest seasons, a regular one and maybe a short one. But then the marijuana has to be dried, bucked, not really trimmed, but put into bales, shipped. So you have what we used to call the Christmas buds, which were the excellent weed. And then in the middle of the year, you'd have whatever didn't sell.
The leftovers.
Right. So all of a sudden you're like in July going, God, this stuff's
You're
crap.
right. Yeah.
Because
harvest time.
Right. I always be, well, you must have made a lot of money. Well, yeah, but I didn't work at certain times of the year. It was hard. That's why I started going to Texas to get weed from Mexico and at first the Mexican weed was terrible. Nobody wanted it.
Yeah, the brick.
Oh. When I grew up in New Orleans, smoking.
Dirt weed.
Right. People in New Orleans wanted Seconals, Quaalude, or Soapers, not Quaalude, Soapers at the time. They were more like acid, and I moved to Florida in 1973, and all of a sudden people were pulling out, like little kids are going, check out my orange buds, my red buds. I go, what is this? This is really good. The marijuana was way better here because we were smoking Colombian, not Mexican.
Right.
Yeah, and that's what, of course, helped build the market. But you guys were bringing in 30,000 pounds at a time, and you'd bring it right into the dock, which saved you the aggravation of having extra speed boats and cigarette. Did you have cigarette boats and all that?
Yeah,
we I know you had them here. Did you have them there?
We had a Scarab, I think, and a cigarette boat, and then 2 other ones. But we used those 2 when we were offloading. We'd bring some of the crew in the speedboats, and the speedboats would be running in case we got raided.
You could run in the boat.
Jump into the boat. And the guys, the drivers, they knew the Bay Area.
Right, so they were locals. They knew where to get into.
Well, they became locals.
Yeah.
The best crew out there, you had the California guys and you had the Florida guys. Right. And, of course, the Florida guys were better, more experienced.
Right.
These were California guys, they dabbled in pot and coke, but they were fishermen.
Right.
The guys from Florida were professional
smugglers. Yeah.
So
they never They never seen a fish in their life. Right.
Another thing about when you get the pot off the boat in Florida, it's $200 a pound.
Right.
So Bruce was offloading a boat, and he wanted to buy the load from the guy. The guy would sell to him for $200. You get $300 a pound out of California. So big Bruce difference. And I did it too. We took in fact, I would buy the pot from Bruce at $225. He got it for $200. He sold me at $225, and I would fly a guy in suitcases out to
California.
No, Tacoma, Washington.
Oh, better yet.
And I charged him $300 a pound. So instead of getting $225 or your $40,
I was lucky to make
I was making $75 a pound.
Yeah.
Then plus what we were doing, we were establishing a West Coast
distribution.
Right. Yeah. So when we got out there, and Bruce was doing it years before me, flying the pot out.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you guys were doing this. You were already
in California.
Yeah. How much pot would you put in a suitcase?
I would put 80 to 100 pounds.
And
that was it. That's all I wanted to fly.
And you just check it in on
the guy would. I didn't fly it.
Yeah, somebody else.
I sold it to the guy. The guy would fly it, and he'd just check it in, and he had certain things. You dress a certain way.
Of course.
Yeah.
But I hear there's still people moving weed from Oregon and California, and they just put it on a plane and fly out here.
Yeah, they
20,
the homeroom. They just.
I'm just saying. Well, I mean,
a lot of it goes to New York.
Of course,
from out west.
Oh, absolutely. Because they know why? Because it's worth more in New York than it is in Florida. Yeah. There is so much. I'm just telling you, the marijuana business did not shrink. It is huge. There's people moving thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds, and what they call it now is there's the white market, which is legal dispensaries in California stores. I've sold CBD and flower in California. And
then you got the black market.
Well, yeah, and then there's the gray market.
Oh, the gray market.
Yeah, the gray market is when you take the black market, because in California now every plant has a registered number, and it has to be checked and tested, regulated. I had a legal dispensary tell me that the laws in California are meant to break you. They had to have a lawyer to look over the paperwork, that the lawyer they hired to make sure they really are regulated, and the taxes are astronomical.
And then look at the taxes.
So what they do is the farms take, something that nobody knows about, or however they get it out of they call it getting it out of the system, and they take it out and then they sell it to the dispensaries as gray market. So in other words, it's black market marijuana that slowly made its way into semi-legal. And then
that's why you get the word gray?
Yeah. And then the white market is the stuff that's still regulated and taxed. So they have the front door might have the white market product, and then they're slowly sliding in
the gray.
Yeah, and like if you're making wax, you're not going to believe the terms that I've learned since getting back into this conversation, but there's wax, sauce, crumble, pearls, diamonds, and then of course there's hash. These are all derivatives of cannabis.
Well,
it's like chicken wings are to chicken.
You said diamonds. We had hemp ink,
right?
And we made products from hemp,
right?
And one of them was diamond,
right? It was that. It's like clear.
It was clear, yeah.
And so if you take black market cannabis, once you process it into oil for the pens, like I said, wax, shatter, all this stuff, and put it into nobody knows where it came from. Right. Yeah. You just, and this is what we call value added byproduct. Back when we were selling weed, you could sell this, shake and stuff. And even today, small buds and shake is not as valuable as, you go to California or Colorado or anywhere, there's top shelf, mid shelf, bottom shelf. I've been in California watching people just selling shake, just sweeping it into a garbage bag.
Right. Yeah.
So
shake sells.
Shake sells. So that's the market today. All right. So let's go back to tell the story of when you were in Florida and you and Bruce, before you went to California and started doing those big offloads, and you were the Golden Gate Cannabis Company, as I like to say. But you had Bob and the 40,000 pound. And the other thing we used to use is Zodiacs. Zodiacs are inflatable rubber boats that you could basically collapse into the back of a pickup truck and blow it up with a foot pump.
Right.
And then you could have a 12-foot or 18-foot. They're meant to be like a life raft or a little dinghy that you can go from your sailboat to your... I remember when we started buying Zodiacs and then Avons, you mentioned, then the Zodiac store popped up on Federal Highway.
Cecil used to sell them.
Oh, did he?
That's how Bruce met him.
Because, remember, they opened up a huge Zodiac. So I remember driving along going,
where did that come from?
Oh, I know what this, if I were the cops, I'd be taking pictures of everybody that wanted to buy one.
Right.
Yeah, so tell the story about...
the Bobs?
Yeah, the Bobs. An excellent story.
So Bob Sr. is about 50 years old, and he probably was connected or something. The guy walked around with sunglasses at night, and him and his crew, they all had guns in the small of their back.
Wow.
And
nobody,
our people don't walk around with guns. So Bruce was friends with the son, Bob Jr., and Bruce he was like an offloader. So someone was bringing up a freighter, they called Bruce, look, he'd give him all the information, and Bruce would send boats out to hit the freighter and bring it in.
What would happen is a freighter would come in with 100 or 200,000 pounds, and that would be one guy's business. He would just bring the freighter offshore. He would never, that guy was, there was a guy that Donnie had mentioned to me that was big back then named Rocky, and he would...
I know Rocky.
Oh, do you know Rocky?
Yeah,
because he's in the. I don't know Rocky.
He's still friends with Don.
Yeah, that's how I know. And he would be the king of bringing in the freighters.
What was it? The Midnight something. He just took a freighter right up the East Coast and had all these different boats.
Yeah,
I mean, tremendous amount, 200,000 pounds. Or something.
And so a cigarette boat would hold about 2,000 pounds. A cabin cruiser could hold 10, 20,000. Let's say maybe. What would you say?
No, cabin crew 5, 10.
5, right? So I said 5, 10. Yeah, 60 foot, 70 foot. Because remember, you can't gut the boat. There still has to be,
fishing poles on it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I had to register a boat for Donnie in Louisiana one time. I flew up there. I forged all the title work. Jumped in a little car from New Orleans, drove down to the bayous deep in Louisiana, meet the crew. I was, again, a kid, and I go, here's your title and here's your paperwork. And they go, these guys were from Florida. And they go, I forgot what they said they were doing. They go, yeah, we're going to get some, was it shrimp or something? I forgot what they said. They go, no, you're not a shrimp boat. You're an oyster boat, or whatever the difference was. I go, don't talk to anybody on the dock, because
you gotta screw it up.
Yeah, that's not what they fish here. Whatever it was, they didn't.
Where was the boat hidden?
I don't know. It was somewhere down in the bayous, Louisiana. It was a trawler.
Yeah.
And they just sent me up there, but I'm like to these guys, don't talk to anybody. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't. So anyway, tell me more about Bob's and Bob's.
So Bruce had sent Junior out to hit a boat in a speedboat.
And how big a boat? You think a cigarette or?
Probably a cigarette, a whole big, what they hold, 2,000 pounds?
I think so, yeah. So okay. Good guess.
So it's a brand new boat.
Right.
He sends them out. Don't come back. Dad comes to the house. Senior.
Yeah.
And I'm in a bedroom, just, in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And I hear this yelling. And I go, what the hell? Now, let me explain something. Bruce was easy going. People to try to take advantage of him. I was no nonsense.
Yeah.
I'll get in your face. All right. So I hear the yelling. I go in there. There's Bob Senior and his bodyguard. And you see the guns, and Bruce had a shotgun, an AR-15, and maybe a 9mm sitting on the bed. He's sitting cross-legged, and Bob's yelling at him, And then Bob threatens him. Anything happens to my son, I'm gonna, whatever he said was a threat.
Yeah.
I pick up the shotgun, right to his head. You don't threaten. That's a no-no. You don't threaten. So Bruce looks at me and goes, what are you doing? I said, he just threatened you. And Bruce goes, no, he didn't. And Bob goes, yes, I did.
You're his younger brother. You're protecting him.
Yeah, but it led up to that. I was working for him, collecting money, and I just saw people trying to take advantage of him.
All the time. See, what we would do is in the drug business is if somebody ripped you off, somebody did something, 99% of the time the marijuana guys would go, I forget it.
Yeah.
Because it's better to let the money go than bring heat on. We don't know anybody that's going to collect it. What are we going to do? Call the mob? We don't have guns.
He did have your collector. It was Hector the Collector.
But I'm saying the bigger you get, the more you can't let someone steal $400,000.
Well, he got ripped off by the DEA.
Did he really?
For what was it, $250,000, 1,000 pounds, and they beat the shit. We had 2 stash houses, and you have somebody in each stash house, and they came there and they beat the shit out of the guy, pistol whipped everything, because they wanted to find out where the second stash house was.
But he didn't know.
He knew.
Oh.
He didn't divulge it,
Right.
and they stole the 1,000 pounds, and so Bruce got a bodyguard
after
or
that.
2 bodyguards after that.
But how do you sure they were the DEA?
Yeah, he knows the whole story,
Really?
who the guy was, and all.
Really, they sold the pot.
You ever hear of the Miami River cops?
Of course, I write about it in my book.
Okay.
My friend was the lawyer. He got debarred for being the lawyer. Yeah.
He got disbarred.
Disbarred. Yeah. How about this? I got busted in Massachusetts. We smuggled. Well, one of our friends, Bruce Goodwin, had smuggled 40,000 pounds into Canada. The worst in the no high tide. Wouldn't get anybody high. So they contact us and they go, hey, we want you to bring the weed back into America and try to sell it. So we use a seaplane to bring 200 pounds at a time from lake to lake. I get busted with 1,400 pounds of it. When I went to trial, it was only 1,280.
What happened?
It was just 2 bales.
Only 2 bales?
1,400, about $60.
I wonder how much coke went missing.
Yeah, well, there was not even any coke. I'm
saying
yeah.
Coke bust.
But the funny thing is, I always laugh going, and they couldn't sell it. Imagine you're a cop and you steal 2 bales
and you can't sell it.
Like, it's so bad even, and cops.
You know the thing with the Miami Rivers cop, you said you knew? Netflix approached them. I don't know who it was, maybe it was the cops or people that were involved in it, and they were going to do a series on the Miami River cops. And I don't know who said it. Either Netflix told them to fuck off, or can I curse?
Yeah, of course.
And then, or whoever on this side told Netflix to fuck off.
Really?
And they killed that deal.
I'm going to actually have talked to him. My friend's name is Wayne Summers. He was he's going to come do the show with us and tell us the inside story of all the legal stuff.
Ask if he knows about if Netflix approached that.
Yeah, I will. And so tell me more, because I remember. So Bob and Bob, you put the gun to Bob's head, but then you guys went out with the Bob and Bob's to all and off.
Okay, so what happens is you know
you were still. This is after that.
So you know that happened, and then Bob Junior shows up. What happened? The guy didn't know how to drive his boat, and he went up on a wave and came down on a wave and split the boat in half.
In the middle of the night, probably.
In the middle of the night, everything was in the middle.
Yeah, you have to make sure you jump on top. Yeah, but it can happen.
I would have probably split the boat in half too.
I'm not saying I'm any better. And the boat's got
the closest I got being in a 70 miles an hour was somebody driving and me being harnessed in. I just wanted to be on a boat that went 70 miles an hour.
But I mean, and you have it. When you have 1,000 pounds in the boat.
No, he was going out to hit the boat.
Oh, so he broke the boat without any weight.
He broke the boat without. No, he didn't load.
But was it a fiberglass boat or was it a rubber boat?
I don't know. Probably fiberglass and it split in half, and that's what happened to him. He went missing. That's why the father's going, "Where's my son?"
I wonder how they found him. I mean,
but he made it back to shore.
Yeah.
Okay, so now a couple months later, Bob Senior comes to Bruce, going, "I'm bringing up 50,000 pounds on a freighter. Can you offload it?" So Bruce partnered with somebody he had a base in Cat Island.
Right.
Okay, so Cat Island's like that. His base was here, and the freighter came here. And what he was doing, he had Avons. He would come across. Well, first what they did with the freighter, they hit it with 2 cabin cruisers,
right,
and took off 5,000 each,
right,
and then sent them back.
All right. So
Florida.
Now the 50 went to 40,000.
The 50 went to 40. So he's coming across to offload it off the freighter onto the island
for a stash house on the island.
For a stash, and then little by and then take it off and bring it to Florida. So what happened is that he was coming across in Avons, which is a wooden floor. The Zodiacs have metal.
Right.
They're bigger.
Right. They're both inflatable rubber boats, but they're not rafts. You got to think of them like. You'll see the Navy SEALs now. If you
That's
look, they have and they have the big motors, and it's just the rubber is once you inflate it. Nowadays, it's like solid, like a boat. We have an inflatable paddleboard, and it's been inflated like that for 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's different technology. It's crazy, but anyhow.
So he's coming. The guy's coming, or 2 or 3 boats are coming across. And rough seas, and the floor breaks.
Right.
And he goes back to base. Not how far out. Nobody comes to me and says, "Oh, we're not offloading tonight."
Right.
He just goes back to base. Senior goes out and sees, the spot where they're supposed to offload, and there's no pot there.
Right.
What's he thinking?
Somebody
just ripped me off. So I'm in the hotel. I just flew out there just to observe.
So Cat K has a hotel. It has
hotel.
I mean,
we got a lot
now,
of people there. There's seniors people. There's the crew to offload it. There's my people, and I brought Bruce's bodyguard, who had a gun, and I was and my girlfriend at the time, and we're just.
How old were you?
This is 1978. So 23.
So you have a 22 or 23-year-old girlfriend, let's say.
Right, so we were about the same age at the time.
So here's this girl.
And she was hot.
And she's in the middle of, tell the story.
And she's in the middle, but she's a very seasoned marijuana person.
Right. She had larceny in her blood.
She was around. In fact, her brother was our biggest salesperson out in California.
Right. Mark, I think he said. Right.
Mark Behr. So anyways, so the hotel I'm in has a front door, you come in, and a back door that leads out to the beach.
Right.
So me and Marianne are in the hotel room, and here comes Nelson. It's that night they're supposed to offload. And
Nelson, the bodyguard.
Nelson's the bodyguard, comes running in. You gotta go. Bob thinks you ripped off the load, and he's coming for you. So we run out the back, and Marianne just starts crying, and then all of a sudden you're hearing gunshot. And we jump over a sand dune, and we're sitting there, and she's crying. She's in hysterics.
Bullets are whizzing by.
Not that many, but you could hear beep, beep,
Well, you think he was trying to hit you or scare you? Or just let you know
I think they could have hit me. They wanted to.
But I mean, they were trying to show you they meant business.
Yeah, and they get close to me.
Right.
So she's crying. She's like, "I'm going to kill your brother. I'm going to kill your brother." And Like, well, why are you gonna kill Bruce? Because I was just supposed to come here and observe, and I'm being shot at.
Yeah.
So at that time, I turned to Nelson. Nelson, can you do something about this?
Can I say something? You didn't get laid that night, I'm guessing. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Hell no. So anyways, Nelson takes out his gun and he just starts shooting over the dune, and then the shooting stops.
Right, because they realize there's...
So then the next morning, I go to Senior, and I'm walking up to him. Now, when I pulled the shotgun on him, that guy didn't move. He just had them sunglasses. He's looking at Bruce. I'm over here, and I pulled the shotgun, and he just keeps looking at Bruce.
He wasn't phased.
No. Damon, no.
Bob was kill or be killed.
So now I walk up to him the next morning, and he's wearing a sunglasses. He's looking, I'm coming up this way. Doesn't even look at me. I go, I guess you didn't like me pulling a shotgun on you.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, what the fuck are you doing having your guys shoot at me?
Yeah.
Because where's my load? I says, I don't know. You know, there was supposed to be a middleman that connected with the offloader and Senior.
Right.
And
Somebody in
that
charge.
fuck didn't tell me. He just took off on the two boats. The two first boats went to Florida. He took off to organize offloading them.
Oh, he went with the 10,000 pounds.
He went with the
Because he probably went where the money was. He figured that's 10,000 for sure.
And,
Or whatever. Who knows?
and I'm here, innocent bystander.
Right.
So I go, Bob, let me go to the offloader and see what happened. So I get, I go there. I go, David, what the fuck happened? He goes, oh, our boats broke apart. Well, it would have been nice if you would have told somebody. Fucking Bob's ready to kill me. He goes, all right, I'll go explain to him. So we got to saw Bob, and he explained to Bob the boat broke apart, and we'll offload tonight. And they offloaded.
Did they have to get up? They used the same boats, just fixed it. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe he had a bunch more boats.
Yeah.
I mean, I never saw. I went to his place, but I wasn't.
They
looking
found the
around.
guy.
I was like, get the fuck over here. This guy's ready to kill somebody.
Yeah. You need 40,000 pounds to finish the offload. And usually when there's something like that, people will jump through. When you hear about, hey, you can make a few bucks. I'm sure it wasn't hard.
But it was a whole thing of different attitudes. Like, the guy didn't think it was a big deal. He didn't show up to offload it.
Yeah.
And this guy's
Must have
thinking
killed
somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, and that goes back to the kind of the psyche of, or the human side of it, the different motivations, like you and I kind of just grew up in it, and we never, and maybe Bob was, maybe he was older, and he did.
Yeah, he was Italian. Okay, so
yeah,
he was 50 years old at the time.
Right, so he had grown up in a whole
like,
different world.
Yeah. His son wasn't like that.
Right.
Junior was, easygoing and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because we didn't carry a gun. We never thought of it as a crime. We just were having fun. Would you say that you were more motivated by money, adrenaline, excitement? What made Craig do this? I understand how you get your first joint, and what was it? One of the revolutionaries said, once you smoke your first joint, it was not Abby Hoffman, it was the other guy, Ruben.
Timothy?
No, it was Ruben. It was
Jerry.
Yeah, I said.
Do you know that Bruce worked with him?
I did not know.
And you know how Jerry Rubin died?
Uh-uh.
He was a jaywalker. And Bruce would tell him, this is in somewhere in L.A., Bruce says, you're going to get killed. And guess what?
He got killed.
He got killed jaywalking.
That's why I tell the story. Jerry Rubin said, this like the 66 or 67, once you smoke your first joint, once you turn on, and you turn on, you're an enemy of society. And what I've said before is, because when we were kids, if you smoked a joint, to get a joint, you had to either do something illegal. You had to buy it from a dealer. You had to sell it to somebody. And so if you had an ounce of weed, you'd sell 3-finger or 4-finger bags to get some extra head stash. There wasn't a whole lot of money, and you make a little money. What was your motivation, you think, in the beginning? And I want to go back to the rest of the Bob story. But Bob, I'm bringing it up because here's Bob, a New York City, kind of mobster, didn't grow up in the world we grew up in. He's stepping into it because he sees, we know what it is, money. What do you think drove you at 20-something, you and your girlfriend, to do all this? Was it absolutely money? But what about the excitement and the what did you want to be when you grew up if you weren't going to be a drug or a pot guy? Did you have a plan when you were 10 or did you want to be a police?
Airline pilot.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And a police officer, I wanted to be a cowboy, a secret agent, and a race car driver. So
you became a race car driver,
right? And a secret agent, it turned out.
Oh, right. Okay.
And I grew up on a farm, so we grew up on watching Rowdy Yates and Gunsmoke, and we grew up on that's all we knew. But so you were motivated by
money.
Yeah.
There's a funny.
It landed on you kind of like that. You grew up in it,
and Bruce was more of enlightening people.
Yeah.
He thought, open up your consciousness by smoking pot.
Yeah.
He was, a hippie.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
I have a friend of mine that went to Gainesville. I tell the story. He's in the book, Dude Bob. He went to Gainesville. He kind of looked like a nerdy Buddy Holly. And he went to Gainesville to become a doctor. Got there, smoked some Gainesville Green, immediately went out, let his hair grow, bought a bunch of tie-dye T-shirts, became a Grateful Dead head, and started running weed. He became a drug because he got turned on to the hippie lifestyle. If Bob never went to Gainesville, he went to a different school, he might be a doctor today, But, we were brought up, it kind of sucked us up. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people and Bruce went to school with became big-time smugglers.
Right.
It was just Miami in the 70s.
Yep. I can tell you how many friends I know that I have friends that by the time I was just getting out of high school already died in plane crashes in Colombia, DC-3s.
Flying out.
Yeah, DC-3s and other planes are murdered. And, it was, as I like to use the word, it was the lexicon of our lives. It was the language that we grew up in. But so
it was exciting. The story I tell is, let me see what happened. Bruce was at the fights in Vegas, and the boat came in early, and like 2 weeks before that, he got busted, arrested.
What did he get busted for? How'd that happen?
He had a warrant out for some deal in Florida years before.
It's a conspiracy kind of thing.
Yeah. I sold Bruce 8,000 pounds.
So he was already and how. Just so I understand, because I never heard that. I didn't realize he was in. Well, I knew he went to jail for 9 years, but this was the first bust.
Yeah.
And how long did he stay in jail?
He didn't. He was a hung jury, and the prosecutor didn't want to prosecute him.
So he got out.
Yeah, he got probation.
And what year do you think that is?
I'll tell you exactly, 1981.
Yeah. So it was still being kind to us. It was still when I got busted.
Yeah, I got busted with 500 pounds.
What year was that?
1978.
Yeah.
And you know what I got? 2 years probation, and after 1 year I was released.
For 500 pounds.
500 pounds.
So in 1985, 86, you'd have gotten 10 years, 15, whatever. I got busted in 88 with 1,400 pounds, and I got out because of an illegal search and seizure.
Illegal search
and when it was this little courthouse, and it was the courthouse where they supposedly hung the witches in Salem, Mass. It was, as I was testifying, a tour group came through. My lawyer goes, listen, don't be, sometimes there's a tour around noon, don't pay attention. And I'm like, yes, I look, because and after we beat the case, our lawyer pulled us aside and said, listen, if you would have gotten busted with 1 ounce of coke, you would have went to jail. Because at that time it was crack cocaine, 1988.
Well, I think mandatory was 15 years for 1 kilo.
Yep.
1 kilo.
Yep. Mandatory.
So you stayed away. If you can't do the time, don't do the crime.
At that time, in 1985, we unloaded 300 kilos on a runway, and I was like,
I guess you didn't mind doing the time.
Well, it turned out I worked for the DEA, but that was a different story. But we would have done the time. I mean, it was me and all my friends. We would have all gotten 15 years. And so everybody on the runway was a friend of mine. I wouldn't have testified against any of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't. It was all my best friends from high school. We would have all ended up getting 15
And how
years.
many groups, smuggling groups, were friends in high school?
This is what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Bruce, you.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. When we brought in the 1,100 pounds into St. Pete, the cops arrested. We had one guy. He never done anything before in his life. My buddy called him up and said, "Hey, how'd you have to unload a plane?" And Scotty said, "Okay." And when the cops, they never caught the load, but they caught him. They charged him with alien smuggling because they didn't get the weed or the guy, nothing.
Alien?
Yeah, well,
illegals?
They thought because they had nothing. All they could. It's a long story. It's in my book, but they chased the car with the getaway crew and left the weed in the pickup truck. So the pilot just said, I have no way to get out of here. So we got in the pickup truck and drove off. So we saved the whole trip. And then that night he called his mechanics and told them to go over to the plane. The DEA had stickered the plane, but they forgot there was a door in the back. So they went into the back, cleaned the whole plane up.
Wow.
And the next day they came to search the plane. They had stickered it. They got a search warrant. No seeds, no stems, and nothing, no residue. And the 1,100 pounds I took and sold. And the only person that caught was the one guy that was trying to get away. They got him, and they charged him with they had no charge.
Nothing to charge.
Yeah, and he got a year. But he had never, ever done a smuggling trip in his life. My friend just called him up and said, hey, we're good friends. I'd like to make some money tonight.
Yeah, I've seen ones where the guy, they're offloading a boat, like on a canal.
Mm-hmm.
And, hey, you want to make $5,000?
Exactly.
And the boat gets busted.
Right. And they never did it before, never did it since, and didn't know any better. And I get it. $5,000, it'll be like a $15,000 night. I did the offload for the cocaine. I did it for $20,000 for one night, and I would never do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was making 40 grand every 1,000 pounds. Why would I do that? It seemed like a fun thing to do.
It seemed like a fun.
All the guys were in. I was in.
There was that sense of excitement.
Yeah.
I got away with it.
Yeah. Now, back in 1985, 40, that'd be like 60,000 today, or 50, let's say 60, yeah, 3 times.
Probably 3 times.
Yeah. But still, you're looking at 15 years if you're not, something else goes wrong because you get killed. I mean, things could go bad, shot up, we don't know. But, so you got the 50,000 pounds in with the Bobs.
Yeah. And then Bruce went to them, so he got he split the offload. 25% of the load went to Bruce and the partner.
Right, for supplying
for offloading
and paying off you, paying off this guy. That would be
so he got he got 25% of the load, and then Bruce went to Senior and says, "Can I have the balance and I'll sell it?" And Senior, okay, and then he got it for $200.
So Senior now trusted. He put the guns away.
He put the guns away for the time being.
Yeah.
Because what happened is that it was just hard to sell the pot.
It was flooded.
The market was flooded.
Right, because all the weed comes in at the same time.
Yeah. So it was flooded. His top salespeople decided to take a vacation, and it was slow moving.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Senior actually, one of our houses had his bodyguard sitting there with an AR-15.
Guarding the load.
No, the load wasn't at the house. He was there at the house. So as the money came in, he gave him the money, and he took it. What are you doing with a fucking gun?
Right.
Yeah. So we got him laid.
Oh.
And then he started sitting in the front yard protecting us. And we had that was around the same time that Bruce federal warrant came out for him. And I convinced Bruce, that's how I got busted with the 500 pounds. You don't sell to a friend's friend.
Right.
And we were so desperate to move the weight because of the pressure we were under with Bob. And after that, I go, Bruce, just give him back his pot. You made enough money on the offload. And plus, we had a boat on the water coming from Alaska down to Columbia.
Wow.
Yeah, a crab boat.
All the way. The funny thing, I was wondering why, of course, what people don't understand is one little boat in the ocean's a speck, even a big 60 or 80 foot trawler, and one little plane in the air is a speck that nobody knows about. And we can unload a plane in 3 or 4 minutes. They say 5 minutes to unload 1,000 pounds out of a small plane, and then the plane disappears again, and it happens. It's like a tree falling in the woods, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how do they? I wonder where I guess they don't have a flight pattern. Why would a boat go from Alaska all the way to Columbia? Well, once it's in the open ocean, nobody knows where it is.
No one's out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we tracked our boats. Everything, communication, communication. We had rescue boats down off the coast of Mexico. Yeah, really. Those guys should have felt pretty safe.
You guys had so much radio, and tell us about the back end of Bruce's and operation that you were obviously an integral part of.
No, I really didn't know. It got to a point where I would meet with the boat captains, and I would meet with the people that would outfit the boats.
Right.
But I didn't know much about, the communications or outfitting the boats. I just knew that they knew what to do, and my people were there watching them, and if they.
But I mean, Bruce or was it you or Bruce was telling a story about you had all the radios, and
the
you had
RV.
You had an RV, and you're not the only one. I've heard of other people having an RV that was. Tommy Powell will tell the same story, how he had an RV that was just packed with radio equipment.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the old Bearcat scanners?
Yeah.
We used to be able to listen to the police scanners on a thing called the Bearcat, which is a $200 or $300 little ham radio type thing, whatever, that you could, a police scanner. But the police didn't know it, I guess, or they knew, but we could listen to all the police.
So you had the police frequencies.
Yeah, we would have that. Everybody did that. Everybody did it, and even the cheaper ones, the truckers would have, the
CBs.
Yeah, the CBs, and then they'd have like scanners to listen for.
Now, he had an amazing amount of equipment, and he had people that worked in the Navy, and they, so they had the communications down really well.
Yeah, so you could listen to what the DEA was doing, what the Coast Guard was doing, what the local police were doing,
right?
And a huge network of that he had.
Well, we had a saying: we knew what they were going to do before they knew what they were going to do.
Exactly. The one thing I learned about when I was working for the cops is they can't do anything without getting permission from everybody, and it
takes time.
Yeah, and everything's overdone. Like,
right.
Okay, all right, let's go, instead of saying, hey, let's just go over there and take a. No, we got to have 7 backup and bring this, and they love all their toys.
Let's use them.
Yeah, we got all the money. Let's load up the war wagons. I'm like, what the hell? So
they got to spend the money.
Got to spend the money. Got it exactly. Got to spend the money, and they all want their. They've been training for years. They got to get the heavy equipment on, the bulletproof vest, the rifles, the pistols, the helmets, and go out and play. So you did the Bob and Bob offload. You got busted with 500 pounds selling to a friend of a friend.
Now let me explain about bust. Rule of thumb.
Yeah.
If you get busted on land or sea, and you present a newspaper article to the Colombians,
right.
that the 500 pounds was in the newspaper.
Right.
Showed it to the Colombians, and they wipe off the 500 pounds.
You don't owe it.
Now, where you run into a problem, which I did, going for a Colombian car ride, is that a boat sinks, and you don't have a newspaper article.
Right. Nobody knows.
But the Colombians want to know.
Exactly. And they will kill you.
So the California guys, I didn't know, Florida guys, I trusted them with my life.
Right.
The California guys, I knew them a year, 2 years, 3 years.
Right. It's not
so we're on the dock taking off wholesale $9 million worth of pot.
In one trip.
One trip.
Wow.
So you load up a truck, all they got to do is pull out a gun,
right.
and say, thank you, the California guys, and drive away.
Yeah.
We don't have guns.
Right. Kill you.
So what I would tell them, because I hung around with them a lot, I said, the Cubans and there's the Colombians. And the Cubans will kill you if you fuck them.
Right.
And the Colombians will kill you and your whole family.
Right.
So if any of you motherfuckers
right.
are thinking about ripping us off, it ain't my pot. I only paid $10 a pound for it, and the rest is the Colombians until I pay them. So if you rip them off, the Colombians going to be coming looking for
right. you. Right. It's they got to know that there's somebody to fear that's not part of you. It's not you.
And they never pulled guns on us.
Yeah.
I mean, they, I didn't really trust them, but they never ripped us off.
Well, they made a lot of money.
Yeah, they did make a lot of money.
When people get ripped off when something goes wrong, not look, people get ripped off because people are scumbag thieves.
Yeah.
There's an old expression that if you steal $1 million from somebody, well, you might have gotten tempted by temptation to change your life. But if you steal $50, you're a fucking thief. So what I can understand, but as long as you're making money, what I found in the business was when the shit hit the fan is when something went bad and now everybody wanted to get paid, was expecting to get paid, and nobody's getting paid. Then that brings out the crazy people.
Let me just explain something. I had a crew of 15, and I would rotate them on the dock, and they would make $15,000 that night.
great
So
money.
they wanted it on the dock. So we were always moving because we had meetings at our house, and it was a heat sink. So you don't want to be there for more than 3 or 4 months. Neighbors,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people, a lot of cars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And we had somebody that would go and rent us a house, put it in their name, and then we go move to that house. Right. And I would use the guys to move my furniture, and washer and dryer, the refrigerator. And sure enough, every time they moved, which is about 3 or 4 times that I was out there, a washer would go missing, a refrigerator would go missing, a sofa would go missing, and I'd go, you know, okay, who the fuck up? You know?
Yeah.
Okay, keep the refrigerator. You're fired, and you're never going to obviously work on the dock.
Right.
So you steal in that refrigerator, which is
you
$500,
right.
Costs you $15,000 plus $500 a week.
Right.
Bye.
Because you give them a salary to stay on staff.
They were there. Everybody was on a $500 a week salary.
So they could live. They could go out. They could buy food.
Well, they were working. They were working.
Right, but what I mean, were they in what we call in the drug business the hurry up and wait mode, or were they just
no? We were always working.
Yeah,
and we were always. I mean, we constantly had a boat on the water.
Because we have an expression that somebody coined years ago, a DDD, delayed dope deal. Because I always say
a lot of waiting.
Yeah, a lot of waiting. It's like a military operation. You're a lot of waiting. I've sat in the side in hotel rooms. One time we had a crew in a hotel room. We used to travel with actually when I got busted, the second time we had footballs, frisbees. You know, we had a work truck. You know, we made it look like a working crew. But you know, what are you going to do? You're just sitting in a hotel room.
Right. There's Florida. You're waiting for the freighter to come.
Yeah.
You know, and it gets delayed. We were the freighter.
Right.
So it was like, okay, we know what is left.
You know when it's coming.
And we know when it's coming back. Yeah. Now you can run into problems, which we did run on the water. You know, running out of fuel.
Right.
So yeah, you had, but he was so well organized that any problem you ran into, he could solve it.
Bruce really, out of all the smugglers, and I can't wait to get Bruce on the show. Craig was in the neighborhood, thank God, so we were able to get Craig on, and then we'll get Bruce on to encapsulate more of this. But really, and I've known some of the biggest smugglers. Well, I'll say as big as any smuggler in the world I've known or worked with. Really was organized. Really looked at it as a business. Really, you guys really took the old father's retail, the
furniture store.
Yeah, the little furniture, and really built it into the same concept.
Well, you had the whole thing of laundering the money, setting up corporations to buy the boats or buy whatever you're going to buy.
Exactly.
No paper trail.
Right. You
can't dead end paper trail.
You don't want to walk up to some guy selling a boat, and say, here's 50 grand. You want to sell me the boat? I mean, that's a red flag. You could. It does work. It's really good to do. But you might say to someone, listen, I'm going to pay you, like 50 grand in cash, another 50 grand from my company. You want to make it look you're somewhat legitimate.
And that's what he did.
Yeah.
It was so many different aspects because he went from point A to point Z.
Right.
Collecting the money, paying everybody,
paying the Colombians
laundering the money, outfitting the boats again.
Right.
He tells amazing stories of the whole organization. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like Donnie, like Randy Lanier, like my friend Tommy Powell, at that level, you're really a worldwide operation because you have to learn how to move the money to Liechtenstein or the Bahamas or the Caymans or Isle of Man, and then set up dummy corporations. And
right.
And Panama was another place, and just to do with the money and to give people an idea. People were making. What do you think Bruce made total? 100 million.
About 75 to 100.
Yeah, so you're talking about, let's say, $100 million
in 1980 dollars.
Right. So that's probably $500 million today. Let's say 400 million, rough, whatever. It's and the difference is, just to give people an idea. In 1980, you could buy a house for 80 grand. The same house today is 400,000. A Porsche, the most expensive 911 Turbo Carrera in 1980 was $38,000. A brand new cigarette was $75,000. In today's market, a cigarette would be $1 million, and a fancy Porsche is well over 100. Not even the top.
A cigarette costs 100.
$1 million.
I mean, $1 million.
Yeah, I think so. They're like a 4 or 5 engine,
Shit.
maybe 700 or 800, depending on what size and
The
everything.
engine,
But we used to pay 60, 70 grand.
yeah. And when he was in jail, they stole his boats, stole his trucks, stole his money.
Well, it's kind of like what I like to say about when you get busted and you have a wife or a girlfriend. I'll wait for you. Well, when the cocaine's flowing, the private planes are going up and down, and the jet skis are running, and the concerts are, limos to the concert, they're with you. But when all that goes away, or I have an expression, when you dance at the party. When you walk alone. And usually on the way out, one of your friends is going to throw a shoe to hit you in the back of the head. People walk away quick when this
I call it the ship is sinking and the rats are jumping overboard.
Yeah, you know this. You got busted. I mean, and as Bruce got busted, how many of your good friends just kind of said, we got this? And I had one guy that takes my calls to this day. I'm friendlier to this day with the arresting officer and my DEA handler. It's funny. Bruce tells me the story that he did 9 years in prison. It was the best 9 years of his life.
Well, he went to a co-ed prison.
I know, who does that?
And that was one of his things. What he did is that he pled guilty. Yeah. And he goes, okay, I'll plead guilty if you give immunity to my wife, my brother, and my uncle. My uncle was helping us launder the money to Vegas. And I get the choice of prison I go to. And he chose Pleasanton. 2/3 of the population is women.
He tells a story. He goes, you're in trouble when you ask a girl to go to the movie that night and she turns you down. Like, what else could she do that night, right? You're not desirable. When I remember, we were kids. When we were kids, there was no cell phone. You'd have one phone, and you'd say, "I called you." My mom was on the phone, or the girl would just take the phone. Signal. Yeah, they'd take the phone off. You get a busy signal, and what happened? She goes, "Oh, I had to do my hair." Like you were getting. The brush off. And, when you're in jail or prison, what's your excuse?
Was he talking about Lana?
I don't know. What do you think?
Lana.
I'd rather be in my cell than go to the movies with you.
But did you ever hear the story with Russian spy?
Yeah, she was a Russian spy. I can't wait to hear all that.
Whoa, one nasty person. How's that person? Yeah.
Really? She was tough. And didn't he marry her? He was his girl?
He was married, got married in prison.
Oh, well, the ceremony was probably, think of it this way, you know how much cake to get. Everybody's going.
Did you ever hear about this yoga guy in Oregon? He had all the Rolls Royces.
Of course. You mean the
girl.
Was it, no, but wasn't the guy,
it was a guy, but the one who took,
Maserati?
I don't remember his name, but the one
they were all painted up funny. Everyone had this.
And they tried to take over the town, own the town.
Oh, yes. I know that story. Yes. Yes. Took over the whole town.
Okay, so whatever they did, she took the fall from it. This girl.
Really?
And she was in Pleasanton. And she's the one that married him.
Yeah, we have to look that up. That's an incredible story. These yogi, kind of guru guys, right? They came in and he built a compound in Oregon in a small town. And they got all these people that were followers that were giving their money and their time. They were brainwashed. It was a cult. And they virtually went in and basically tried to take over. And here's these poor, quiet people in the middle of nowhere in Oregon that are just happy to go and get the white bread slice, little things. And these guys took over the whole town.
Yeah.
And then finally the town somehow.
They were doing something illegal.
Yeah.
Something. And they got him. And somehow she took the fall.
Yeah, that's a famous story. I have to read. Well, I like to think that if you're a good smuggler, you're a good salesman. And if you're a good salesman...
Don's a good salesman.
Yeah, I always say, and Rick, our engineer, who's hiding behind the scenes there, he knows my current wife, and she's young and beautiful and makes a great living and is a wonderful mother. And I always say, now you know how good a salesman I am. If I can convince her to take this old broken Poe guy and keep him around. She had no idea about my past when she found, and she's anti everything, The only thing when she first met me, she said, listen, you actually need to smoke marijuana. She goes, it's good for you. You can smoke all the marijuana you want. But if you ever do one line of cocaine, I'm leaving you.
Good for her.
And what I said, if I do one line of coke, I'm probably leaving too. I've only got a pacemaker, 2 open heart surgeries, but
really?
yeah, I don't want to touch anything like that. I like to think I did enough coke in the beginning that I don't have to do any in the end.
Well, I think about it in the last 10, 15 years, I go, God, I'll probably give myself a heart attack.
I've gotten a lot out of you. It's been a great show. I want everybody to read the Ride the Tide, which Craig has put a lot of information. As you can see, he's like a walking encyclopedia of memory. And then the Golden Gate Smuggling Company, which is, let's see if I can get those. That is also about him and his brother's exploits. Bruce is going to come on and tell us some more stories. I'm going to go on Bruce's too. But if you go to Bruce's now, he's doing a chronological order or trip through his entire life and he's got, like me, he saved a lot of it. Thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else that you want to bring to the table while we're sitting here?
No, I think we're pretty much, there's a lot more stories, but I think we're out of time.
We're not out of time. We could keep going.
No, I don't want to get any more stories because there's so many stories.
Well, maybe you'll have to come back.
I mean, Bruce is talking about he's gotten 15 episodes done.
Mm.
He's released 10 of them. And it's one...
Chronological.
Every trip there's a story.
Right.
You know, and I was out there the whole time.
Right.
And
well, you're his trusted right-hand man.
And that's why, you talk about, friends growing up with them. Why? You trust them.
A friend of mine once said, and he was an Italian kid, he was my kind of like my body, I didn't really put him to work, but he always stood next to me. He was there to help me and everything. And his uncle was one of the guys that was in the Lufthansa Gold ripoff that the movie Goodfellas is about.
Yeah.
You know how?
Oh, at the airport or something?
Yeah, in New York. Remember, they said don't spend any money.
Right,
and
the Cadillac.
The one guy bought the fur coat and the Cadillac, and they killed him. That was his uncle.
Really?
Yeah, and Anthony once said to me, he goes, listen, never leave the glove. He goes, when I say, I got this guy, I'm going to go work, whoa. Do you know him like you know your hand? The glove is the people that you have in your hand. They're it's your friends. Do you know him like you know your brother? He used to say, do you know him like you know me? And I go, well, but and then I go, well, what is your stomach telling you? Because you go, my stomach doesn't like this one. I go, all right, then maybe we're going to back out. Because he would get a feeling. I did a show with the Navy SEAL guy. And I remember the second time I got busted, I was driving onto the set, right? Where we're going to go do the awful, bring the weed. And it was my partner, and I go, something's not right. Right. Something doesn't feel right. So I told my driver, I go, don't go to the motel, because that was the first time I go. And I remember we were in Cleveland, and I go over there, and we go over behind a Taco Bell. And it was right on the edge of Lake Erie. And we parked out there for about 10 or 15 minutes, and I'm thinking, I don't know what it is. You know what I mean?
You got that feeling.
I got that feeling. And I was interviewed, I did a podcast for a great guy, Mike Drop, Navy SEAL, great, cool guy. And he said to me, we call that in the SEALs, trust your gut. Trust your gut. And how many times do you think that in the whole time that you were doing that, did you get that feeling?
Only a few times.
Yeah, but you guys were good.
Yeah.
But if you read like Max Mermelstein, I read his book, Snowblind, one of the first smugglers to get busted and write a book. And that's what everything he did wrong on the day he got busted. Like he had his records and his books in the house. He had, like you do all these things, never, you don't do this, don't do that, don't do this.
Your rules.
And the one day he got busted, he had broken all his rules. Yeah, kind of the same thing happened to me.
That's how I got busted. It's like, never sell to a friend of a friend.
Right.
And we never did except this one time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What happened.
When I got busted in Ohio, of course I was getting busted. I didn't realize after the fact that I had 17 people as part of a conspiracy, but I had used my cell phone in Texas by the Tex-Mex border. I had the keys to the secret compartment of the truck in my pocket. I mean, like, I mean, they had everything on me I had a matchbook from the hotel on the Tex-Mex border. Like those are things you don't do. You know, you make sure you throw away any line proof. But I didn't know. I'd find out months later that they had way more evidence than the matchbook and the keys and the weed.
Right.
And I thought I got busted.
No, they built cases.
Yeah, I thought I got busted with 100 pounds. I go, this is the smallest trip I've ever done. This is funny. Maybe I'll do 18 months. And they come in, they go, no, that's not the 100 pounds. It's the hundreds of thousands of pounds that you brought. Yeah, that over the last 12 years. But
you talk about trust. The worst thing that happened to me was it was actually my mentor. The guy was like 5 years older, and Bruce had met him in the wood business. Bruce, one of his covers was Magic Woodsman. We had redwood tables.
Oh, nice.
And we used to get them in Northern California, ship them across country to Florida. We were in Miami making the tables.
Yeah, they were. I remember the tables. I mean, I remember that was a thing.
Did you know Dickie Schwartz?
No, but I remember all the people were selling. Remember, you'd get the table, and it was a tree, and then they would put the epoxy on it.
Yeah.
Right, and it'd have little tree.
Well, guess how Bruce paid for the redwood?
Oh.
The pot.
Oh, didn't he really? And that's so funny. I remember the place.
So he met this guy, and I brought the guy out to California. And long story short, the guy made a fortune with Bruce.
Right, selling weed, not tables.
Selling weed. And when Bruce got busted, he had a boat on the water. And we went to bail him out. It was $1 million bail. We raised the bail. Then the prosecutor went to the judge and says, we want up the bail to $5 million.
Oh, my God.
And then Bruce goes, I'm done.
And this is the first bust.
This is the second bust. This is when he went away.
For 9 years.
For 9 years. Yeah. He goes, now I'm done. By the way, Craig, I have a boat in the water. You got to go out to California, turn it around. There's 20,000 pounds on the beach. If you want to outfit another boat and send it down and get it. So I went to this guy and said, come on, let's go out to California. We went out there. Long story short, we brought the boat back in, outfitted another boat. All within 5 months, we sent another boat down there, offloaded it, and sold all the pot.
So he had 20,000 pounds coming in.
Yeah, it was
while he was in jail.
When he got busted, he had 20,000 pounds on the beach.
Wait a minute, when you say on the beach, it was not on the beach. It was in a stash house or something.
No, it was on the beach of Columbia.
Oh, okay. So waiting for him.
Waiting for the boat.
And the boat was on its way.
This is the West Coast. Yeah, this is 1983.
Okay, and the boat's on its way.
The boat's on his way. Bruce gets busted.
How is he talking to you while he's in jail? Like code?
Code.
Yeah, because they listen to everything.
Yeah, code. Yeah. And so we went out there, turned the boat around. In 5 months, he got busted in March. By August, the boat was back in San Francisco with the pot. We sold it.
Yeah, that's something that, so you make a point here. I know we were talking about saying goodbye, but I want to keep going because we got stuff. This is great. What people think is like, there's no quick and easy smuggling trip. I mean, they take months and months of planning.
Right.
So if you only had one boat, you could only do maybe one trip a year. Because again, the grow season, from to get the good weed goes from like November to like Christmas buds, because harvest in October, you got to dry it so it doesn't become mildewed. If you don't dry it, it'll just turn into white dust. It'll be mildewed. It'll be ruined. It's got to be dried properly, which means getting it out in the sun, hanging upside down. You got to trim some of the wood out of it. Outdoor, some of these marijuana things are the size of small trees. You got to cut it down to just buds and some stems and seeds that you don't need. And then you have to package it. Then you already have to have a relationship in Colombia to have that going. So you have your other guys coming down. You're coming. It's a month ride it's got to be a month or 3-4 weeks.
We had a saying, what was it, 17 days down, 21 days back.
Yeah.
So it's 40 days.
On the water.
But, in the beginning, they would stop in Costa Rica for 3 or 4 days.
Right.
And then there's other times in which they ran into problems.
Right. Radios
this
go
book
bad.
here, the Brett, he ran out of fuel.
In the middle of the ocean.
And he made it into Guatemala.
You mean as he was running out?
He was running low.
Right.
They I don't know, they were running the boat too fast.
Yeah.
And their fuel went down, and there was no fuel gauge. You took a
Right,
broomstick,
put a stick in there.
and a stick in there, and you go, holy shit, we're not going to make it there, you know. So they pulled into
They figured it out.
Guatemala.
These are seamen that know what the F they're doing. Because
he found his way with the sexton.
Yeah, that's what my first buddies that were smugglers were sexting guys.
Yeah.
They didn't have all the navigation and all the stuff that came out in the late 70s, early 80s.
Now, did you see his interview?
No, but I'm going to have to watch it.
It's really interesting of what he went through.
Well, Cecil tells a story about going down to pick up a load in a sailboat, and there was a water leak, and all the water, their freshwater tanks got contaminated.
Oh,
so you have salt, they have no water. And as good as you guys were, I always used to say, there's no organization in organized crime. I mean, there's a lot of, you know, where's Bill? Oh, Bill picked up a chick last night, ate a bunch of Quaaludes and didn't wake up. I mean, I'm not saying that happened with me, but I just know the more people you have in your organization,
more chances of fuck ups.
Right, because the weakest link on the chain. And what you guys seem to do is really keep it tight.
You looked at every possible scenario going wrong.
Yep.
And you covered it. And each trip, he learned something more.
Right.
And added something more.
Right. Exactly.
But going back to the outfitting another boat and sending it down there was 4 partners. The guy, his name was Donnie. Me, and then the 2 guys in California. And I said, okay, everybody has to kick in $25,000 for Bruce, for attorney's fees.
Right.
Even the Colombian kicked in $10,000.
Right.
Here's $10,000 for your brother.
Right.
So Donnie gives me 25. I put in my 25. I get it to the lawyers, and then Donnie tells me the 2 guys in California never gave him the 50, 25 and 25. I mean,
what are you gonna do?
So 10 years later, Bruce is out of jail. I'm in a restaurant, and I see the guy from California.
Where, in California or here?
In Florida.
Oh, are you kidding me?
He moved to Florida, and his name was, so I called him out with the name he had out in California, which wasn't his real name.
Must have flipped him out.
And he's walking up the stairs, it was 2-story, and he stopped, and I got off the table, and I started walking to him, and I called him by his real name. And I go, what? And God told me, hey, hello, why the fuck did you give Donnie the $50,000? He goes, what are you talking about? I gave it to him. Now, we haven't seen Don. There's a whole nother story of what Donnie did to me. He almost got me killed.
Really?
Yeah, because he did another trip after we brought the boat in, trying to eliminate me, but he couldn't eliminate me because the Colombian went front of the pot without my okay.
Right.
And I was part of it. And the boat sank, and he just disappeared.
Did the boat really sink?
The boat really sank. They got picked up by the Coast Guard. One of the guys on the crew was a Hell's Angel. Martin, they knew from his tattoos, thought they were drug runners. Made a newspaper article.
Yeah, Hell's Angels involved in smuggling. Yeah.
So there was a newspaper article. The Colombians come to me, where's the newspaper article? I don't know, where the fuck's Donnie?
Right.
We don't know where Donnie is. We're holding you responsible.
Right.
I somehow don't remember how the boat captain got in touch with him. He had the newspaper article. I flew out to California, picked up the newspaper article, gave it to the Colombians.
Really?
But they were this close to killing me.
Yeah, they don't play.
They did the Colombian car ride.
Yeah.
You get in the front seat, I'm in the back seat, and he's deciding whether he's going to shoot you or not.
Right.
By the story you're telling him.
Really?
And they told me, we went to Donnie's house. He wasn't there. And then we hooked up with Donnie 35 years later. He reached out to us. Donnie, why'd you do that to me with the Colombians? You know, you just disappeared. What are you talking about? They came to my house and I gave them the newspaper article. I said, if they came to your house and you gave them the newspaper article, why the fuck were they knocking on my front door?
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we addressed the $50,000.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, Paul never gave it to me. 6 months later, he finally goes, oh, I searched my subconscious. Paul did give me the money. So you talk about a piece of shit.
So, yeah, you know, and that's the other thing. So you talk about, again, the human psyche, right? Like, when there's, what drives people? And listen, I'm no angel. You know, I look back at some of the things that I've done, I go, oh, man, I should have handled that
differently. Yeah.
Yeah, you
but
know, I'm not that kind of money.
You didn't fuck anybody.
No, I never.
And I was like this with the guy.
No, that's the one thing that that I had the reputation that, I used to say in the business, I don't care what the story is. You just either have the product or the money. You got to have one or the other. If you don't have the 10 keys or the, 700
Better have
pounds,
the money.
better have the money. But don't tell me you don't have both, because, that's not good.
Do you remember the story when Bruce got ripped up by the DEA?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It was 1,000 pounds, $250,000. He paid $240 a pound.
Right.
He paid the guy back. You know what kind of reputation he got?
Right. Because that's the thing. You know that guy's going to... That's why, even as a kid, Donnie Steinberg says, hey, give me $1 million, $2 million and tell me to fly to the Caymans. Because they knew...
You weren't going to go that way.
No, I mean, could have told the Learjet pilot, listen, do me a favor.
Hang a right?
Yeah, hang a right. Or landed and walked past the bankers, got my own bank, but that wasn't going to work. I tell you a funny story.
He would give you $1 million, $2 million to go deposit somewhere?
Yeah, just say, here, kid, take it to the Bahamas.
Bruce would do that with the money laundry. Yeah, you were a money launderer.
Well, I did not.
Isn't that what you were doing?
I was a kid. They give me $1,000.
Okay, but you were laundering money,
I
right?
suppose I was, if I look at it now.
Okay, you're laundering money.
Yeah.
So Bruce would do the same thing, $1 million, $2 million to these guys. But the problem was, they rolled on him.
Yeah.
You didn't roll on Donnie?
Well, I never. No, I think they were already busted, but I would have never done that anyway. I didn't. But
They were already busted.
yeah, I was a kid.
Wouldn't have done any good.
No, but I mean, I just didn't know. I was just a kid. I was telling the story that one day we get on the plane. I used to go with Sandy, and then they sent me by myself. And the pilots, it's about 8:30 in the morning. I got my girlfriend to make it look like we're rich
You
kids.
had to bring the girl along.
We're all dressed up like
Yeah.
we're meeting Daddy's yacht. And they break out a bottle of Dom Perignon, and they go, hey, and I've already at that point drank a lot of Dom. I wasn't naive, but I go, huh? They go, yeah, your boss likes the bottle. We thought we'd bring. They probably paid for it and thought they would. I would have been happy with chocolate chip cookies and chocolate,
Right.
And like some Coke, root beer. Do you have any root beer? I don't want to. I'm a kid. What do I care about? I mean, not that I hadn't drinking Dom, but it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, and I don't.
You don't do
I'd
that.
already been in a Learjet, enough times to know. It's not like a big thing, but yeah, I remember looking, going, you don't have any chocolate milk, do you? It's like, anyway. Again, thank you so much for coming. I know we did this already.
If you want to, I can come back.
I would love you to come.
I'm out in Arizona a lot, but I'll be back for the holidays.
Yeah.
Or, I'm back and forth.
Yeah, I was asking Bruce what you're doing. You guys have a project out in Arizona.
Arizona, yeah.
Yeah. You guys, listen, that's the other thing I find, that some of the biggest smugglers I know smuggle, get out of jail, get into legal businesses, and climb right up to the top. So the cream rises. If you're smart,
He
and
probably
honest,
made as much money, if not, in the legal business now than when he's smuggling.
Really, and it's
Yeah.
yeah. So I remember my mother telling me when I was a young drug dealer. She said, well, "What are you doing this?" They knew what was going on. And I go, "Mom, I'm just."
That's interesting.
Yeah.
My parents knew, and it was all right with them.
Yeah, and she goes, "But you're not making enough money." She goes, "You should just go. You can make more money legally." At the time, I was just climbing the ladder, starting out. She goes, "Why don't you just go get a legal job? I think you'll do better long term."
Wow.
And and it was probably true. If only we would have put our what was that joke? Put good instead of evil. Like.
Do you know George Young?
Oh, I know the story about him. Yeah. I didn't
His
know.
mother busted him.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
She called the cops on him when he was a pot dealer.
really?
Yeah. Well, at least it was in the movie.
Yeah. But yeah, my mother was like, I remember my mom went to Europe one time, and I gave her a gift, but what was in the gift was 1,000 cash. And she goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "We want to have some spending money."
Spending money.
And she goes, "It's a beautiful vase." And she goes, "No, but I'm not taking this money." I go, "Mom, take the money, go to Europe, and enjoy yourself." To me, I think it's just $1,000,
Right.
And so she came back and she bought me this beautiful jacket. I go, "What'd you do that for?"
With the money.
Well, some of the money, yeah.
Some of
She
it,
goes,
yeah.
"Well, it's like, buy you a gift."
She loves her son.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, again, thank you.
Yeah.